Hello everyone. In today's video I'll be showing you why the orientation of protection blocks makes a difference and how you can get a block to 0.01 off of the surface of another block easily, relatively easily. Alright, so first I've got these vehicles loaded just for demonstration purposes. There are protection blocks on these. I'm going to delete the block right there and block right there, and that makes no protection blocks on this vehicle. The rest of them is going to fall as soon as I unanchor. So I wanted to show you that if you take a wood block, and I've got match rotation turned off so it's not affecting anything here, if you place a wood block down like normal, like on the ground, you can see that the line across it goes with the river, with the line of the river there. So if you orient it the other direction, if you hit R on a keyboard, or push the little button on the mobile, you orient it the other direction, and that is not as good as the original placement of the protection block, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to unanchor. I'm going to pull my extra wheels in here, make sure it looks right. Yep. Okay. So, running down the river, I'm going to purposefully bang into a couple of rocks here and do it as an experiment. So we're going to see these protection blocks shrink. And you can see that that one shrunk on the back side and the front side, and then that one gets hit. It shrank on the left side and the right side. So what you want to happen as you go down the river is you want them to shrink like the right block, which is the one that is the orientation that's just normal to the game. So this is the way you want them to shrink. You want them to get narrower in that orientation, because if they shrink this way, then eventually your vehicle will be exposed. The sides of your vehicle will hit the rocks as you try to drive between them. So yeah, that's why it makes a difference. So when you're placing your protection block, make sure you always reference like the ground, for instance, and that will and turn off match rotation and make sure that you've got the right rotation. Because if you set two blocks of plastic out here, it's really difficult to tell. This one's oriented one direction if I hit R, and that one's oriented the other direction. Yeah, how are you going to figure that out? So anyway, and of course I tell you a lot of things in the videos based on experience. So yes, I have done it wrong before and puzzled as to why where my protection was going. So to illustrate the point even farther, I'm going to run this vehicle down the river a little ways, and we're going to see what happens to the blocks in front of this one. Alright, I think this is the last stage I'm going to be in before I start getting this stuff thrown at me, and you can see here very clearly, even without any measurements. Let me get in a proper orientation here. You can see that that front block is thinner than the one right behind it. Camera wants to flip around automatically, sorry. Yeah, that's the way you want it to happen. If it shrinks the other direction, you'll notice that as you look down this line, they'll become a point at the end, and that's because they're shrinking the wrong direction, and that's definitely not what you want to happen. So there you go. Okay, the other thing I wanted to show you has to do with pictures. Putting blocks right on top of other blocks and making pictures out of them. I've done this a couple of times. It's kind of tricky, but it's fun, and if you've done heavy detail, you've basically done the same thing. So right now I'm just making this so that we can see the edge of this block. Now I'm just going to clone this thing a couple of times so I have some examples. I'll do one more clone. Okay, so let me move that over a little bit more. So if I wanted to move this plastic block so that it is sticking out of the wood block by 0.01, essentially the minimum that you can do, what would I do? 0.01. So I want to just scoot that thing in, and 0.01 off of that surface is where I want to be. Well, guess what? You can't do that because 0.05 is the minimum thickness that you can go to. You can't go thinner than that. So what you end up with is a block that is 0.2 submerged into the block behind it. So you can see right there that there's a little overlap there. So this little gap here is 0.02, and what's on the outside of this wood block is 0.03. So, and I can show you that by just grabbing this one and pulling it out to 0.03, and you'll see that it is now having interference. It's on the same level as the pink one. So that's an odd little thing there. If you want a block that's 0.03 off the surface of that other block, use 0.01 adjustment and slam it in there and you're good. Whatever. So let's go 0.05, and so then we can pull that into the other block, understanding that we have to have, you know, a little bit of meat inside there, and then you can pull it down to like 0.01. So here I'm at 0.05. So I'm there, and I need to make a 0.01 adjustment to pull it back out, making the total block thickness 0.06. And that works just fine. I use that method for a lot of my building, and then I discovered this little magical gem, 0.04. So if you take a 2x2 block and you adjust it in 0.04, so it's 2.04 overall, and then you grab the outside and you slam it in there, guess what you end up with? You're thinking 0.01, right? That is not exactly true. What you end up with is a fraction of 0.01. So it's like 0.005 or something like that. So I can show you that there's the majority of that block is you know, inside the other block. So this one's sitting right on top of the wooden one, and yeah, sure enough, it's submerged in there. It looks like 0.01, but it's actually a little bit thinner than 0.01. If I move that out, so now that red block is 201, then it's clear that the red block is now actually bigger than the pink block. And so if I move the pink block back, I move the pink block back a little bit and look at that closely, maybe from this angle, yeah, it's really hard to see. I can tell the red block is bigger than the pink block. Anyway, that's what it is. So it's like 0.005 rather off of the surface if you use this method. And that's kind of nice for making pictures like these. So these are mostly emoji signs, and this one here is what happens when you use a couple of emoji signs, and you can see them right there. There's one of them, and there's the other one, and those are the regular emojis. This one, and what's the other one? The umbrella and the palm tree. So these two here have been moved over here, made invisible, and you can still see the picture on them, but I did a little extra on here. So from an angle, you can tell that let me turn that tool off. You can tell the dark blue is just sticking out a little bit more than the light blue is, and I had to do that to get the overlay because the dark blue is trying to match the blue on these guys here. So that's what I was trying to match, this blue with the dark blue, and then of course the sky has to be a little different color, so you may get the light, but that's why one of them has to overlap the other one. It has to be this direction. Then the other thing I did was add rays to the sunshine, and of course those have to lay on top of the light blue. But it looks like those have a 0.0. These are probably 0.01, and these are probably 0.005 off of that surface. And that's one of the reasons that you can use that trick to, you know, it still keeps it really, really tight, but you actually have some control over it, and then you have another layer that you can use. And of course you can use that over and over again. So you can do half layers, you know, half adjustments in different places on different layers. So that helps you make a nice picture, which I'm not going to show you because, you know, I haven't done it. But I'm sure there's a nice picture out there somewhere. I've made a few. but they're not anything fancy. Anyway, hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thank you for watching the video. Please like the video, subscribe to Hero Plays Roblox. If you'd like to see some more of our stuff, check out my other videos. Have a good one. Bye-bye.